All right, greetings, friends. I just got done talking with this woman named Gail Lynn. She is the inventor of this device called the harmonic egg. It was such a fun conversation, such a fascinating conversation. She's a really interesting woman while still being down to earth and fun and open-minded. It was just a great conversation. I'll be publishing that interview later this week. Earlier, I talked to a guy named Jason Gallant, who is a natural bodybuilder. By natural, I mean no steroids. But he is also a spiritual seeker, teacher, whatever. I'm not exactly sure what term to use for it. I put people into these boxes. But a spiritual teacher, I guess is the way that we'll say it, and a natural bodybuilder. I will be publishing that interview as well later this week. But the conversation with Gail Lynn was just excellent, and so was the conversation with Jason. And on top of that, what I wanted to say is thank you to everyone who follows this channel. Not only for the follows, not only for the views, but also, man, people have been leaving such great comments lately. I've been having good conversations with people on the message boards. And I don't know if that's an archaic term, message boards, or the comments below the videos. And I love hearing people's thoughts. I love engaging with people in conversations about these things. You know, when you're walking this road, this space cadet road, this seeker road, it's by nature, it's a loner's road, right? It's a lonely road, and we're not lonely. You walk it alone, though, right? And in that, it can sometimes get lonely, you know? When you spend your time out there in the psychic wilderness, and sometimes it does start to feel a little isolated. And it's great to be able to have conversations with people who share your passions and your interests. And on both a serious level, right? Because there's seeking, striving for this thing called enlightenment, serious business, right? But it's also fun. It should be fun, I think, anyway. You've got to remember to have some joy in it. I think if you don't, I think it becomes calcified and does not lead where you want it to go. But anyway, that's another thing. Point is, the comments you're all leaving, I appreciate them so much. A huge motivation for me in building this channel is to be able to talk to people about these things that I am so passionate about and that I find so fascinating. And your comments are sincerely appreciated. One of the things that I talked to Gail, or one of the things that Gail Lynn talks about, is about how when you enter because she had been an engineer and then had worked and she was like a corporate executive and things like that. And then eventually worked into this space of building the harmonic egg, but which is also in itself a spiritual space, you know, the space of the spiritual, we'll call it. And I have a problem with the term spiritual, but we'll just use the term spiritual. Consciousness, right? In the frontiers of consciousness. She talked about how once she entered that road, life just started flowing for her, right? I've had similar experiences in my life. I'm here to write, and I'm here to explore these kinds of ideas. And I find that when I plug myself into them, life starts to flow and things just start to happen, right? And so that's on my mind. I'm thinking about that. And the weird thing about that is even though you experience it and even though you live it, you still forget it, right? Like I still have periodic times where it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like just, this is what you love to do and you've been very fortunate, very blessed. I never want to make it sound like I haven't been, but then I started to think, yeah, but for somebody who works as hard as I do and is as focused as I am and as disciplined as I am, I should be making way more money than I'm making, right? And those little things start to creep in your mind. Then it's like, well, maybe it's time to pivot into something more lucrative. And so then talking to somebody like Gail Lynn is a great reminder. It's a great refresher. And so in the spirit of that flow state, there's an experience that I had when I was younger that I've thought about talking about quite a bit on this channel, but I am very conscious about not having this channel become a narcissistic exploration of me. I don't want it to become like that. I always try to focus on topics outside myself. But this particular instance relates directly to the types of things that most of you are interested in, and most of you follow this channel for. And what it is my first out-of-body experience that happened in broad daylight in the middle of the day. I had a lot of weird sleep experiences throughout my entire life. But this is what happened. I was in my early 20s. I was just getting into running long distances. At the time, I think the longest distance I had ever run at that time was something like 7 miles. Now, later in my life, I got to the point where I was running like 15 or 20 miles. It was like I'd run that a couple days a week. But at that time, 7 miles have been pushing my limit. There was one day where myself and two of my best friends, Mike and Gerard, we decided to see how far we could run. We really wanted to push our limits. So we set up this route that I think was like 25 miles long in total, and we wanted to see if we could do it. Being guys in our early 20s, we thought the best way to go about this would be to get hammered drunk the night before, get like 2 hours of bad drunken sleep, wake up dehydrated, hungover, and then go do it. So that's what we did. On top of that, it was an extremely hot day. This was in Northeast Pennsylvania. Northeast Pennsylvania gets pretty dang hot in the summertime. And this was an exceptionally hot day, even for a Northeast Pennsylvania summer. And so we're running, and I'm not talking shit right now, Mike and Gerard, if you happen to watch this, but they peeled off first, probably just more sane than I was. I kept running. I believe that by the end, I had run something like 14 miles, if I remember correctly, which, like I said, at that time was way beyond anything I ever ran before. So I'm running on this little road that goes down by the Susquehanna River. And I'm running that road. And, for like the previous couple miles, maybe more than that, I had been getting by on nothing but willpower. Like my body was in total pain. The run sucked. But then I hit that point where the body, and any runners out there, you know what I'm talking about. My body just went on autopilot. And I was like, man, just gliding, despite the fact that it was like twice as long as I've ever run before. Just gliding along the river. It's like your mind like detaches from your body, and it's actually usually a really great feeling because you can have these really profound realizations and epiphanies when you're in that state. But this time it went to another level, man, because I'm running. And I brought up all those variables earlier because I then later read about how like certain Native American tribes and other traditions induce these kind of visions through extreme bouts of endurance. And for me, that being like twice as far as I've ever run before, and I was dehydrated and hungover, and it was a really hot day, I think that might factor into what happened. So I'm running. And all of a sudden, I realize that I'm looking down on myself running from like about 100 feet up in the air, we'll say. And this was happening for a while before I became conscious, or I was like, wait a minute, dude, I am looking at myself running. Like, I'm telling you, I know that sounds really bizarre. I know maybe it sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you it happened. And obviously, people are going to go out there, well, you were hallucinating because of and there's no way I can prove that. So if that's what you think, you're welcome to think that. All I can say is, I wasn't hallucinating. I was up in the frickin' sky looking down at myself. It's just one of those things. You're either going to believe it or you're not going to believe it. All I know is I believe it. And I've had many instances in my life where I saw strange things and then looked back. I was like, no, I was just hallucinating for various reasons. This was not a hallucination. I was up in the freaking sky looking down at my body. And it was really weird. And it was also really weird because I was completely emotionally detached. It was just like, yeah, that's me running down there. And as I became conscious of the fact that I was looking down on myself running, this voice, this very deep, it's a very deep man's voice, started saying, you are a singular entity. You are a singular entity. And it just kept saying that over and over again. Now later I told that to it was a shaman that I went to visit. And he read into the significance like that it was saying like I was this like special person. But that is not that's not how it felt at the time, nor is it how I feel looking back. Especially at this point in my life, I don't like feel like I'm a special person. That's not like low self-esteem. I'm very proud of where I've built my life, especially considering my background, where I came from. But I mean, I haven't done anything that's going to be written about in the history books or anything. Like I don't consider myself a special person. But also, that was not the feeling then, right? When it was saying you are a singular entity, the feeling was not that it was saying you are special. I can't even really explain exactly. It was more of a feeling. Like I've read later about like initiatory events and initiatory experiences in people's lives, and that's kind of what it felt like for me. I've tried to explain it to a couple people in the past, and it always falls short. And I feel like by trying to hammer it into a rational explanation, it ends up clouding it and cheapening it. But it was this feeling of, I realized, now you see, I don't even think I want to go there. No, I'm not, because it's going to make it, it's going to lower the profundity of the experience. Just suffice it to say that the feeling was this expansion of consciousness and realizing, I don't know, man. I can't put it into words. All I can say is it reshaped the way that I saw reality beyond simply the fact that I was outside myself looking down at myself. I realized that my awareness is not solely in my body. That consciousness is something that exists outside of our body, and consciousness is something that mingles with the universal consciousness, right? I guess that's the best way to say it. You just realized it was this like disembodied thing where I realized that my body is not me, and that my consciousness is literally this thing that exists outside of my body and can potentially exist completely cut off from the body. And I can say it in a rational sense or whatever, but it was the experience. It was the feeling of actually looking down on my body and all of the emotion, not emotions, all of the mental connections that I had as I realized what was happening. And it was one of the most profound experiences of my life. I've actually had other like really weird ones, like some that are really freaking weird and not the kinds of things that don't leave you feeling enlightened, the kind of things that make you just going, what the fuck, dude? You know what I mean? Like those kinds of things. But this wasn't one of those. This was like a profound spiritual experience. It really was. And it shaped a lot of how I see reality. And I don't know. I'm curious if anybody else has had an experience like that, if anybody else has any thoughts of it. But I also just wanted to share it just because, like I said, that's what this is about, right? Like space cadets talking about space together, right? So, that was an experience that I'll never forget, and was one of the most powerful strange strange experiences of consciousness in my life. So it was really cool. But that's it. I just wanted to share that, and want to encourage everybody. I'm inspired right now by Gail, Lynn. Go with what go with the nature. Explore the things that are in your heart, and I do think you will find that life starts to flow your way a little better than if you take an opposite route. But or maybe not. If anybody's had a contradictory experience, let me know, right? We're just experimenting, trying to figure this reality thing out. But thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for all the comments. It's been so fun. I just really love engaging with all of you. It's been super cool. So that's about it, my friends. Peace out.